Welcome to Experiencing Consciousness. My name is Dyba.
And I'm Dr. Kathryn Rossi. We're happy you're here.
It is. Actually, from this, I'm usually working more like in the afternoon, but I can tell you how I was working today because it's a very typical for me. Because once I start, it's okay. And today I actually wrote a bit, 20,000 characters of a short story. So it was actually, it's not bad. It's more, it's like 10 pages of the story that was in my mind like for like last 7 months. But how I did it. I woke up before 8 o'clock thinking that I will drink a coffee and then start working and writing because that was my plan. Mm-hmm. Then I discovered that I need another coffee. And then I decided to have a third one, but made it differently. Then I thought about a t-shirt that I wanted to buy and was scrolling through the eBay for 40 minutes. And then I almost started writing, but instead I was thinking about the tune in my head, and I discovered that it was the main tune of the cartoon Transformers from '84, and I wanted to listen to it. And then after that, I found another movie, and I almost started working, but then I thought that I am playing a chess game correspondence with my friend, and I had to think about the move. Then I went to the computer, put it on, found out if I have mail, then the second mail, then I check out the first mail again. Then I was reading a bit of Neverwhere of Neil Gaiman. Then I drank another coffee, and after 3.5 hours, I decided that it is really, really too long of starting, and I finally started, and then it was the work was very, very good.
So when you were working, then did you find you could really like hyper focus?
Yeah, it was very good, and for a long time I was actually doing it for like 6 hours, even not going out of focus if I had to for example talk on the phone with the clients or do other stuff. I really few minutes that I was able to be back. It was smooth, it was nice. I'm quite okay. It was not on a bad level, but starting was a disaster. I needed really almost 4 hours to even start to do anything.
So generally what Huber is, in my opinion or case, what he's doing, he's referring to you his ways of going away from the project, of getting distracted. Very creative, by the way. I mean, when I'm listening to it, I go like, damn, that's actually a cool network of associations, and cool way to actually go around and do a lot of creative things, to not do the things that that someone planned for themselves. And then you ask him if he was able to, while working, if he was able to hyper focus. So I'm curious about the whole, you are sitting there and listening to him telling all this story, and I have to say, when I was listening to it for the first time, then for the second time when I was reviewing the session, and now for the third time I'm listening to it, I kind of feel, he talks about all these things and they launch associations within me, so I'm like kind of drifting away when he talks about that into my own imagery. And I'm thinking to myself, you're sitting there listening to all of that. What's like, what is happening inside of your head? What's the process of thinking? And then your question about his hyper focus. How did you come up to this question? How did you choose to ask that particular question and not any other? And, so what was the thinking process and the outcome? That would be my question.
Well, when I heard about all of these distractions for hours, I could relate. And so that's why you don't find any hint of criticism in my voice, because I can relate. I know how to do that. And then when you finally sit down, it's like, this is great. Why didn't I start earlier? So I had the hypothesis going on in my mind. I wonder if there's ADD. You know, and ADD, it's like mine was diagnosed as an adult. So it's adult attention deficit disorder. This is actually AADD. And when he was describing this process, I'm thinking to myself, oh, honey, you got it. So I, and again, that the syndrome is misnamed, because I really see it as attention variation, and that there is an ability to hyper focus that's uncommon amongst most people. And so when you could focus after all these hours of distractions, boom, 6 hours. You know, you were hyper focused. And even though interferences came in, you know, clients called this, that, it was like, yeah, good, got it. You know, you didn't lose the focus on what you were doing. And to me, this is like the greatest part about having ADD. It's the getting started thing that's the challenge. So that's really what was going on in my mind. It's like, and I felt so positive about it in every form of the creativity that happened, the working for 6 hours, then and the things that could have distracted during that hyper focus, they didn't. And so that's really what was going on in my mind.
Yeah, but what I have to say is that we were working on the distractions with Jan, and like 1 year ago or something, if somebody would call me, I would, no, not now, or something like that, and then I will need a longer time to go back. But with Jan, we were working a bit of distraction, and I start to feel normal. I don't get aggressive when somebody asks me questions, when somebody come to me and talk about some everyday life stuff, like what to do in the house. So it was a part of the project with Jan, and we were working on that.
Well, that's really beautiful, and I'll tell you what, that's going to come in really handy being a father, of being able to not get upset with a distraction, but just yeah, it's a distraction, but I'm going to go back to my focus. And so, well done.
Yeah, that was a very positive side of the project, I think. And by the way, when we were working on the distractions, I was quite I was thinking, I would love to go to the trance, to the deep trance, and, you know, fly away or something. And now we are doing all this stuff, and it's like not exactly what I wanted to do, but it was probably one of the most useful parts of the whole project.
Wonderful.
Like when Jan was keeping his window open, and I was trying to get into the trance, and I was hearing all these noises from outside, and I was thinking, like, man, close that window or I will I will be angry. Like, I really need the mood, and now you are doing, and now I'm listening to your neighbors honking or something. But that was a useful part, actually. It's getting me nervous. It's like normal, like people from my family are coming asking about, I don't know, tea or putting stuff to the wardrobe or anything, and I just don't get aggressive about that. I just do it and go back to what I wanted to do.
Useful experience, huh?
Yeah.
Great.
Definitely.
Okay. Cool. Thank you for that insight. That was actually very interesting. Okay, so let's go further, and we'll see what's gonna come up next.
So you know, it's interesting because as you were talking earlier, I was writing a few notes, and I wondered about this ability to hyper focus, whether you have that. I think you do. Like when something is really capturing your attention, that you can hyper focus on it.
I think so. I was always very good of collecting informations, like, for example, sitting in a library and finding information about some topic, like, I don't know, about climbing from 19th century, I can do it for like 11 hours without problem if it's only
Right.
interesting for me. So I like this kind of
Right.
stuff also. But starting work for me is
Right.
very
Right.
difficult.
Well, right. Well, you know, what's interesting is I'll share with you about myself. I have the ability to hyper focus on things that are really interesting to me.
Mhm.
But if something is not interesting to me, I can hardly focus on it.
Suddenly, I mean, gradually you switch from the idea of ADD, which is a deficit, to a question of if he has the hyper-focus ability. So you actually, this is a brilliant reframe. You reframe ADD to hyper-focus, because we may actually look at that this way. This is a hyper-focus, but it has certain additional qualities. And Hubert actually goes with that, says yes, and goes with that idea, which means he accepts the reframe, but also then the difficulty that he has switches from general difficulties in writing, or in going into the mode of writing. They switch to the ability to, or difficulty with starting the process. So it's not it's no longer that there's a difficulty with the process of writing. The process of writing is actually quite is quite well when or if started properly, but the difficulty goes with starting the process now. So do I see the reframe here correctly, or am I too optimistic, or what?
Oh, it's exactly it. You know, it's exactly it. It's that it's this getting started thing. And fortunately, I really understand it. And by me saying something about my own story helps to normalize this, that you can feel very alone and bad about yourself when you're frittering away these hours when you know you should be getting to it. And so to help to bring some normalcy to it, because what I know is that if you're panicking about something, and you get into the, oh my God, I'm doing it again, I'm distracting myself, oh my God, now you've got cortisol's running through your veins. It's that you're into an anxiety response on things, and then that's going to totally derail beginning. And so being able to come with a sense of calm, even when there's all of these distractions to get going, if you can appreciate that, all right, yep, I'm going through distractions right now. I wonder if this is going to be the last distraction before I really get to it. And then the idea is that if you can come into that sort of calm state, you don't need such a large window of distractions. Maybe you need a little bit less, and maybe a little bit less. And then maybe it might be that more time than not, you can begin when you want to begin. But it's there's approximations to it, but helping yourself go into that good mental state that is not about criticism and whatnot, that so that you don't go into a stress response of any kind, that then when the hyper focus comes, you can really utilize it. It's a nice way to look at ADD, isn't it, Jan?
Yeah, it's a resourceful way, and gives a lot of ideas on how to utilize the ability and how to tune it up, so that it would be working for generating more benefit to the person.
And the Polish name for AADD, it will be ADHD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that will be the Polish way. The Polish, okay.
It's just a different way of being. It's a different way of thinking. It's to me, a lot of times people criticize this, but it's when you reduce it to biology. But I think that with gene expression and our own biology, some of us just tend in this direction. And so it's not that you ever set yourself up to pay attention to every distraction. I think it's just the way that some of us, it's the way our physical bodies seem to respond. But again, people like, you're not allowed to say that depression is biochemical anymore. You get criticized for it, but when you know that there's biochemical things that happen with depression, there has to be a meeting of the minds, that it's not all one thing or the other. But when your body's doing naturally what it does, it's kind of important not to fight it. And so that's some of what this trajectory is that, like, you normalize it, and simultaneously, and I know because I do it all the time, it's that how can you make the distractions a little less and a little less and a little less. That I'm never going to be the one that boom, I sit down at the desk and go like what Ernie did, but how could there be a little less and a little less. And particularly in these new life changes that are happening, there's a baby growing more every day, so there's like due to be a lot of distractions, so there's a lot of opportunities to kind of prepare now so that the joy can be to the maximum, rather than having stress about yourself and the distractions.
Yeah, but what is the most typical for me, for example, when I answer emails? I'm writing to the group that we will meet on the next Friday, like see you next Friday, we will see you on the parking at 7 a.m. And I'm already thinking about my next group, which is on Sunday. And usually to the group on Friday, I write see you on Sunday. And they replied, but we were supposed to meet on Friday. And I said, yes, but I wanted to write Friday, but I was already thinking of the next group. And like writing wrong dates is like the most typical things for me. And usually I'm writing everything about the next group to the previous one. like well, and I'm thinking about what I have to write. I'm thinking usually about like if that I already do it, and I'm thinking about completely different one. And I always have to send emails 2 times, like, and correcting all the dates I send to the people. So.
Well, maybe that was up until yesterday. Maybe today and tomorrow will be different, because when you really think about it, there's an art to being in the present moment and doing one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And so the idea of just plain doing one thing, and I had a percussion teacher, and so where you're walking in one beat, you're clapping in another beat, and you're singing in a third beat. And you cannot do that if you have distractions. So he used to say, if an idea comes into your mind, you give it a cup of tea, you send it over there, say, I'll be back to you later. And that was incredibly helpful to me. It's like, oh, yeah, I can do that. Send it out for a cup of tea. And so there's, you'll find your own way, but the idea, it's so satisfying doing one thing at a time. And I know as we went into the hypnosis part, there was a fair amount of being in the present moment, and about, and I'm saying it now, it's like how that can be your growing edge of being in the present moment. Because in being efficient on things, and you're going to need it as a father to not have to do things 2 or 3 times, to be able to do it once, so, and to feel satisfied with it. So it's your growing edge, and you'll get there. I have no doubt whatsoever.
Very nice.
Exactly. Okay, so let's move further with the recording.
And
same with me.
So I have what I think is a superpower, and I don't know you well enough to make it definitive, but I have attention deficit disorder is what it's called. I think it's labeled wrong. I think it should be called attention variability, and that there should not be a disorder at the end of it. So I am infinitely creative. I make up theories and practices. My writing style is it's almost as if I'm writing novels, even when I'm writing a scientific paper. I cannot be like everyone else. I cannot be in a mold. I have to discover and create. And I was not diagnosed with ADD until I was already a doctor. And one of my friends said, "Oh, you got this." I'm going, "No, I don't." He said, "Oh, yes, you do." And circumstances showed in a really funny way. I was at a conference on attention deficit to help with a research project. I was a researcher at that time with UCLA. And there was 500 people there, and 498 of them were able to sit in their seats. And myself and one other person were pacing back and forth at the back of the auditorium so we could listen. And I burst out laughing because it was like, oh yeah, I got this thing. I find it fabulous. I find it a superpower because I know that I can really focus once I settle in. And exactly what you're saying is like, well, once you settle in, you're good. It's the getting there part. So like I said, I don't know you well enough, to say that definitively.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I love mine because this is how my mind works. And no, do I balance my checkbook? Absolutely not. That's boring. I just make sure there's enough money in there.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's like doing these mundane things that are uninteresting to me is not a problem in my life. So I just wanted to share that with you because it's one of my guesses. And the idea that this could be the greatest thing in the world for you, because then you can actually work with this, being able to sit down sooner.
This is the first part where you directly call ADD a superpower, and then you tell Hubert many things about the advantages of that and how you utilize that. Not omitting the difficulties, but reframing them in a different way. And also you use things like, while referring to this, you say, "I love mine," and that it's a superpower. And many times when you phrase things in a direct way like this, you say to Hubert, "I don't know you well enough," but is that actually a way of kind of converting those statements into more like into decreasing the likelihood of actually them being rejected or resisted?
It really goes to the ethics of being a psychologist, is that to offer anybody a diagnosis, a definitive diagnosis, especially if it's not being asked for, it must be done in a way that one could receive it. And so ethically, I cannot diagnose Hubert because I haven't done the other testing and this and that, but I make this guess. And I'm actually very confident in my guess. But again, I follow, I don't lead. And so in this respect, to give the information and also the depth of understanding that I have about it, that that it's walking a line of being very kind, and also walking that, that ethical line, as a therapist, that in my practice over the decades, I don't give diagnoses unless the insurance company requires it. And then I work out the diagnosis that is accurate, but I work it out with the client, because I think that it's not helpful for somebody to tell you that you have whatever problem it is, and in that way. So I'm gently introducing this idea, and also 100% honest. So there's a time to join in, and saying what's real. And also, I know Hubert better now because we've spent more time. But I mean, at the time, I don't know how he would receive this. I was looking at him, and he was nodding, and so I'm thinking, well, there's some of this that he really receives, but it also gave me the ideas of what I was going to further listen for within the context of the hypnosis. Is that the idea of having this focused attention, of continuing with the calm, but in having this focused attention, that I was going to really be paying attention to that. So I was beginning to think along these particular lines of the best way that I could be supportive while we explored whatever it is that he was going to want to explore within trance.
Okay.
And from my perspective, it was actually a very nice thing. I enjoyed it to call it somehow, because it was giving me some kind of a sense of direction, what to read after, because of course it was the first thing I was reading about after we finished, and some guidelines about what to work on, even some things that I have never thought about, me having been in that on that side, and it was giving me a lot of sense of direction about what to read about, what to work about, what to think, and try to find some things which I do in my regular life, and maybe that's thing, and maybe I should work on that, and that's a good thing, because it like switched on some kind of thinking that maybe this is something connected with my superpower that I will have to work about, or right now I see my superpower is activating. I will have to think about a bit. So like giving me some kind of guidance on which side of the vast spectrum of psychology to read about and to look about. It's very nice, because if there was nothing concrete, I will have problems with finding what to read about, what to think about, what to focus on the next, and it was a nice guidance. Yes, that will be the next topic, that will be next thing I will get interested in, and try to think how it connects to my life, to my experiences, and stuff like that.
I'm so glad that it was positive. Because it was I'm fearless. I have a lot of courage. And I did feel that it could be so positive to go in that direction. And so I did. And so I'm really glad that it was positive for you.
Yeah, and it was nice and surprising for me, because actually some people that I know was always telling me that I'm a bit on the side of Asperger's. So I was very, very happy to see, because I was always disagreeing with that, I was pretty sure it's totally something different, and right now I was happy. I will read about that. I will focus on that. I will try to make something out of that guideline.
And really enjoy it. I mean, really enjoy it. And I mean, again, that I mean, I don't see any Asperger's in you, but But you know that you're unique, and you know that you think differently, and you know that you operate in the world in a very creative way, and a lot of really creative people that aren't necessarily understood. So, you know, well, I'm glad I was courageous.
Yeah.
To do what it is that you want to do, to not tire yourself out before you sit down to do your heart's desire.
Yes. And the
Yes.
second thing I discovered is that I tend to do everything exactly. I finish stuff exactly 1 second before it is absolutely too late. Like, for example, I organize a tour. So I book hotels, I book drivers, I do itinerary, I do all the stuff and payments. And like up till today, everything went smooth. But nobody knows that everything was organized exactly the last second before it will turn into a disaster.
Well,
that, for example, I have 7 days, so I usually spend 6.5 days doing absolutely other things, and then last 4 hours like working like absolutely crazy.
Well, you know what they say, necessity is the mother of invention. But what I'm hearing is that that's not really working for you, that you don't want to do it like that.
No, I don't want to. But in a way, it's kind of like giving me a thrill, like that.
Oh, yeah.
I feel so shaky. Oh my God, if I will not do it, it will end a disaster. In my head, I already know, yes, I will do it because I am capable of doing it. It will not turn a disaster, but this thrill or some kind of like, I don't know, masochism or something like that, or taking off the time for myself. I don't know why these things happen, but usually everything is very, very good, but usually at the last possible moment.
Well, I know that you have that desire to change that, and let me tell you, honey, I call people honey and dear. I'm not like up with like all the things you're not supposed to do, so I'm just real. Gonna have a baby soon.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that it will show me that organizing time this way is impossible.
And the thing is that this child is not going to know when you have this really short deadline when they need you. And so there's this new element in your life where you're going to set the deadline a little sooner. Yes. It's like whatever it is in your mind, that instead of, you know, the last 5 hours that you can do it, it can be, which is, for instance, a Friday. Oh, what the heck? I signed in on the wrong Zoom. That it's telling me it's going to time us out. So what I'm going to have to do, I apologize. It shouldn't be like this. I have 2 Zooms. I signed in on the wrong one. So we're going to have to sign out, and then we know how to begin again.
Oh,
I know right where.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah. So anyway, you know, I'll send another link and sign out of this and get into the correct one. Okay.
Of course.
Too important. That's actually very important part, because, you know, but let me first. So Hubert is again sharing some insights into his pattern of behavior, and here you very directly say to him, but you don't want that. You want to alter that. And then you connect that with being a parent. So before I ask you the second thing, the thing about disconnecting and stuff, what's the mechanics behind that one? I mean, you know, what was your thinking? How do you connect those things, and what was the intention? Because I can see so many possible ideas behind it.
And by the way, ending with conclusion, it will happen. So I'm just waiting until this moment that it will happen, actually. Not it might happen or something, but it will happen.
Which is beautiful. Well, by this time, I'm really crazy about Hubert. I just love him. I want everything that is the best for him to happen in his life. And the place that he was just with the abundant joy is with this baby. And I know right away that no matter who you are, you got to change your organizational styles when you're going to have a baby. Now, if you have a propensity for ADD, this ways of altering it so that, you know, that in this case, you set the deadline. Like, you know, if Friday's the deadline date, it's like, I'm getting everything done by Tuesday. Tuesday's my deadline. That, you know, in ways where there's days in advance that you say, this is it, it's going to happen by now. It's a mind shift. And this, it's a necessity. And so the motivation really was, you know, in having a really great life, of what can happen so that this last minute organizational style can be a thing of the past, because it doesn't work. It doesn't work for anybody. I mean, it's kind of exciting to be able to pull it off in the end, to bring it all together, but it's not sustainable. And that his focus is going to be on that baby. And it's not going to be about, you know, I'm so sorry. Listen, you know, somebody else look after this child, because I need to spend 5 hours organizing something that I should have finished on Tuesday. And so when you've got necessity going on with you, there's a wonderful motivation. And that it's, you know, that obviously doing mountain treks and things like that, you know, that's a thrill-seeking activities, you know, that I think is just really great. But when you come home, you want there to be the calm. You don't want there to be all of this other stuff going on. And so, you know, and so where you can be focused and how you can, you know, get things done. So it was really about the suggestions of shifting patterns that are going to be, you know, more workable, kinder, and the timing is now, because there's a baby coming, and you want to have those, you know, everything lined up of your organization way before the baby comes, so that it's natural after the baby comes.
Okay, Hubert, would you like to comment on that somehow?
No, it was exactly what it was said.
Okay, so my other question would be, because that's actually the moment we were disconnected. The cool thing is that right after we connected, you actually started doing the preparation and hypnosis session. So that's actually a good line to, you know, end up the analysis for the introductory part. But I'm thinking to myself, you know, nowadays we are actually working a lot. I think many therapists went into virtual kind of tools like Zoom or Skype or whatever. And I'm thinking, you know, when you're working with someone on the conscious level, for example, in CBT or any other form of treatment that actually people are focused and conscious all the time, that's not so much a problem. I mean, you know, losing a connection, internet connection, not, you know, emotional connection, losing an internet connection during session may always be kind of a bit threatening or something. But when you are working with someone in a trance state, utilizing hypnosis in a treatment, and you do it through internet devices or portals or whatever. And in this case, we knew that the connection is going to end due to Zoom restrictions. But what to do if you work with someone in hypnosis? How do you deal with that when you work with someone using hypnosis and, you know, they, for example, lost the connection? Internet.
Oh, well, you know, and in my case, you know, I signed into the wrong account. You know, they didn't sign into the paid account. And I'm happy to tell you that's the only time I've done that, you know, so that's pretty good.
Okay.
But that sometimes, you know, where the screen freezes and you're working with someone, you know, freezes on your side or freezes on their side. I just keep going. That that I might not, especially if they're frozen, and that and I'm not getting the kind of feedback and whatnot, and especially if trance has begun, I'll say something on the side. Oh, you know, from time to time, the images, they shift and change, and sometimes they even freeze, but you'll continue, you know. So, you know, going with the honesty of the situation, but not you know, not really worrying about it. As a lot of times when people are in deep trance, they really wish that you'd talk less, you know, that you know, give me more space to experience. And so when that has happened, or even a connection gets severed for one reason or another, and you know, and you just begin again, without any discussion about the technology, say, oh yes, well, but here we are, and to continue and to go forward. So I just continue as if everything is perfect.
That may promote amnesia also.
Well, you know, I mean, and certainly, and there are also times that, you know, that the session is really up. And the session is, I work in long sessions, and so they are of varying lengths. But, you know, sometimes it's like my body's telling me that I'm done. And so I will encourage the person, you know, to continue as they are, you know, just to continue as they are for as long as they need to, you know, or as, that's not quite the right way of putting it. Just you continue. You're continuing to receive, and so stay there. And I'm going to be signing off now, but you just continue. And in each case where I've done that, it's worked out really well. Because sometimes, especially if they're at home and they want to continue, they don't really want to come back to the regular consciousness, and also that they don't have to come back to their linear mind to actually talk with you. And that I'm always at the end of a session. I don't necessarily need somebody to say what they experienced and this and that. I usually say, you know, you just continue to stay in that. You know, we can talk about all of that stuff later. So there isn't necessarily a wrap up when it has to do with therapeutic hypnosis. Although I'm pretty good at, towards the end of something, of saying, you know, and we really explored, and then, you know, I'll list the elements of the session, you know, again, in a slow voice, and a quiet voice, so that there's the sense of we really did do what we did. But it depends on each situation. But as far as technology, you know, there's always going to be those glitches and things with it, and everybody knows it, and so there's just no reason in my thinking to get upset about it.
Just preparing and utilizing those things for some.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I think we headed to the end of the first part. This was another episode of our Experiencing Consciousness podcast. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jan. You're the best. Be well, be happy, celebrate life.